Hello, boys and girls. In lesson 5.2, part 1, we will be finding the percent of a number by setting up and solving proportions and by decimal multiplication. Let's launch this lesson. Let's create a part to whole ratio that represents the circle below. If we look at the circle given, we see that one part out of 4 is shaded. So how do we now convert this fraction, 1/4, into a percent? Can we create a proportion to represent the relationship? Absolutely. So if we compare 1/4 to a percent, remember that the word percent means for every and cent 100. So therefore, we can equate 1/4 to a number x out of 100. We now have a proportion that we know how to solve. Let's cross multiply so that we get 4x is equal to 100. And when we divide by 4 on both sides, x equals 25. Therefore, 25% of my circle is shaded. Let's launch our lesson. Let's complete this proportion by using the given labels. In the previous problem, we saw that a part, the number 1, out of the whole, the number 4, equaled to the percent x over 100. So therefore, in our launch, we can fill in the words part over whole is equal to the percent out of 100. Now, over the years, we've seen so many different word problems, and we noticed that the same words would pop up over and over again. So many math teachers realized that there's another proportion we can use to help us out. And that is the word is in a word problem, or is could sometimes also be are, were. What else is there? Will be, was, over of is equal to percent over 100. So let's put this into application. Let's take a look at the following example, and let's use 2 methods to solve this. One by using a decimal method, by multiplying by a decimal, and then we will use method 2, which is by solving by proportion. Let's take a look. So when we are solving using the decimal multiplication method, we are taking your decimal number, your percent written as a decimal, multiplying it to the original number, and that gives us your part number. So let's try this out. You answered 70% of 20 questions correctly. How many questions did you answer correctly? Well, 20 questions represents your original number, because that's originally how many questions you had on the test. 70% represents the actual percent. If we write 70% of 20, what we're looking to do is finding 70% of 20. 70% as a decimal is written as 0.70, and when we multiply it by 20, we would get the part, or x. After multiplying, we find that x is equal to 14. Therefore, 14 questions were answered correctly. Let's use the proportion method. So we will be getting the part over whole, or otherwise known as is over of, and setting it equal to the percent over 100. So again, if we are looking to find 70% of 20, well, we have a percent, so that will go up on top as 70. 100 would be our denominator because that's already part of the proportion. So where would the 20 go? Well, the 20 is attached to that word of, so therefore it would go in the denominator just like it shows in our model. On our top, we would put x for the part, or for is, because we don't know yet what 70% of 20 is. So let's cross multiply, and we get 100x is equal to 1,400. When we divide by 100 on both sides, we find that x is equal to 14. Same answer, different methods. So let's try these two methods on our own. You may pause the video at this point and then replay it once you are finished. So let us go over each method. Again, in order for us to use the decimal multiplication method, we are going to do the percent as a decimal, times it by the original to give us our part. So our percent is 32. As a decimal, 32% is 0.32. Times it by our original number, which is 75, and that will give us our part. We are being asked to take 32% of this whole number, or of this original number. When we do the multiplication, we find that our part, or our x, is equal to 24. Let's use the proportion method. So is over of is equal to percent over 100. Again, we don't have a number for is, so we will use x. Our of number is represented by 75. Our percent is given by 32. and our 100 is part of the proportion. When I cross multiply, I get 100x is equal to 2,400. Divided by 100 on both sides when solving, and x gives me 24.